Hello guys, this is Sir Arca and welcome to our tutorial for the installation of Visual Studio into your computer. So the first thing that you will need is to download the application or the installer for Visual Studio in visualstudio.microsoft.com. Okay, so you could download different versions for your device, and what I have here is the community version, which is actually I do use the 2019 version. Okay, so the Visual Studio 2022 has just been released and I have not yet tried Visual Studio 2022, but I think it will not be a problem if you will be watching my tutorials and will be using Visual Studio 2022 for the tutorials that I do have or for the programs that we will be doing. So remember that the scope of the tutorial are for basic programs for people who are starting to use Visual Studio for the first time, or this is going to be your first trial for doing simple programs. So after downloading, you will see the Visual Studio installer into your computer, and this is what it will look like. So as you can see here, I have here the Visual Studio installer, and I have here the Visual Studio 2019 installed in my computer. So as you can see, since I do have the Visual Studio 2019, you this modify word will be replaced by install if you have not yet installed Visual Studio into your computer. But because I do have Visual Studio already installed, I have here the modify function. So remember, this will be replaced by installed if you don't have any Visual Studio installed first on your computer. So when you do install, this is what we will see. You will see a list of different possible downloads that you could add in onto your into your computer to be used for programming. So right now we will just be using three. So if you are one of my students and we are starting for the basics for programming in Visual Studio, I suggest these three parts, which is the ASP.NET and web development, .NET desktop development, and Universal Windows platform development that we will be using on our tutorials. Okay. So after installation, this is just about 25 gigabytes of memory to be installed into your computer. So be sure that you do have enough space if you want to download. Now remember, you need not to download everything, but if you do want to learn something new, you could actually add the things that you do want to add. Now, it is a good point that if you are using Visual Studio 2012 for my students who were able to acquire the installer before, take note that not everything is installed in a newer version or something that came online. So please be reminded that there are some things that you still need to manually install in your applications just in case you will be following my tutorial. So you don't need to worry because I will also be teaching what are the things that you need to download just in case we are going to be using it in our programs. So after installation, this is what you will see if you do ever have a Visual Studio installed into your computer. So you will see Visual Studio and then you could immediately create a project. So creating new projects allows you to pick what type of project you would want. So you have here different options that you could use if you want to develop something. So right now I'm using web. You could use console. You could also use desktop. So these are the main three types of applications that we will be developing in my tutorial here on my channel. Okay, so I think that's it, and we will be just wait for my uploads for my tutorials for the basics of programming in Visual Studio.